Hey everyone, today we're talking about personal narrative writing for 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. So if you teach those grade levels and you're ready to take your students past just the very simple, small moments that every teacher does for a lesson, this is a video for you because I'm going to be showing you every single lesson that I do with my students to create really amazing personal narrative writing pieces. And I love having collaboration be a part of my videos, so if at any time you have any ideas to share or you have questions, please leave them in the comments below. So we all know that the first part of doing a personal narrative writing piece is brainstorming a topic idea. And with this topic idea, small moments are a really popular way to teach students to pick a very tiny piece of a story to write about. And it does make it a lot easier for students to do that. So if we are working with students in small moments, for our personal narrative writing, which we usually are in 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade because they're not quite ready to go beyond a small moment, then what I do is just use a simple graphic organizer. And in this graphic organizer, I have them come up with some small moments, just a few ideas of, in this case, our prompt is about meeting a friend. And so they're coming up with a few times that they've met a friend. And the key piece to making this step of the writing process work is having students then take their brainstorming and discuss with a partner or a group so that they can choose a small moment that not only works well for a writing piece, but is also going to be entertaining when other people are reading their writing. So a lot of times students really struggle with which topic to choose. And so adding that sharing and discussion element to this lesson is going to be so important. Once students choose their small moment, a lot of times teachers have them start writing. And maybe they'll do a little more brainstorming, but they skip a really important part of the process, and that is character development. So character development is not just a part of creative narrative, it's also a part of personal narrative. Because if we don't teach students to develop their characters, even though their main character is themselves, they assume that their readers know everything about them, and then they leave out key details. So in order for students to write a really great personal narrative, they still need personal development, which requires them to actually write down information about themselves that they're going to use in the story to develop their character and the other character or characters that are in the personal narrative. With students who really struggle with personal narrative or those at the lower grade levels like 2nd or 3rd, I like to start with a prompt that would naturally include just the student as a main character and 1 or 2 more people. That makes it a lot easier to really do this development process. Another area where students really assume that their reader already knows things is the setting development. So if we don't teach students how to develop the setting, they're not going to be able to write a really descriptive narrative. So I always do setting development as a part of one of my personal narrative lessons because it's really important for students to explain exactly what everything looked like, what it sounded like in situations where there's involving food, what it tasted like. And so this is something that we really need to develop before students go on to actually writing their narrative. So once students have really properly brainstormed some ideas for setting development and described their characters, including themselves, we then go into just making a quick outline of their story. And then from that quick outline, we'll expand upon it a little bit and we'll start with beginning, then teach middle, then end of the story. And this way they have a guideline so that they make sure everything's in order. And then from that outline, we're taking them into the actual writing piece where they're not only including what's on the outline, but they're including that character and setting development. So always encourage your students to use that brainstorming for the character and setting development inside of this story outline and then also inside of their rough draft. And if you notice students are missing a lot of what they brainstormed, have them go in and revise their rough draft and include more character development and setting development from their brainstorming. This is an awesome opportunity to teach about revision, but also to really improve the student writing and help clarify some areas where the reader might be confused. 2 other key pieces that we really miss in personal narrative writing usually are introduction and conclusion. A lot of times we think that those are only skills that need to be taught in informational writing. However, properly introducing a story and concluding a story makes a big difference in their writing. So starting with introduction, this is another place where we can include setting and character development. So having those brainstorming pieces are really, really helpful. And this is where we're really introducing everyone to our story, setting the stage, and then we're doing our story outline step by step by step, and then we're concluding. So when we conclude our lessons, what we're really looking at is not only resolving everything, wrapping it up, but doing some sort of reflection at the end. So the last piece is the most important piece, which is where we actually take our rough drafts. And I do this as an example, as a model for my students, and then they do this in their own writing. But we go through and we label everything that we have done as far as the elements of personal narrative. So we go through, we look for dialogue, we look for our setting and character development. We look for narrative transitions. We look for everything being in the correct order. We actually label every single piece in my writing and in their writing. And this leads us into a really good revision, because when we see what we don't have inside of our writing, this gives every student the exact list of what they need to do to revise their writing. And then we can finally go into editing, and then we can start wrapping up our piece. Speaking of important elements in the rough draft, I really love using bookmarks for narrative transitions, and also for my students who are writing dialogue. Just a little quick tips and some examples here for them to use in their writing. We use these in all narratives, so it's really helpful to have these. I will laminate them for students as well, because we do a lot of narrative writing, but I'm going to include this in the link in the description. So definitely go there and check out my writing bookmarks, and also check out, I have a free personal narrative unit for you as well. A common question I get is, how long does this take? Because those are so many lessons. And usually for us, we take about 2.5 to 3 weeks to complete our personal narratives. But there are so many bite-sized pieces that I teach throughout that time, and I really want to make sure that I put it into those bite-sized pieces so that my students really understand before we move on. And then we really work on mastery of those concepts, and I just don't want it to be too overwhelming. So if you're trying to do personal narrative in just 5 days, or any other type of writing, it is really difficult. So I would discourage against that and encourage you to really break things up into bite-sized pieces. So that is our personal narrative lesson. If you are interested in getting those free resources, or interested in more writing instruction tools, definitely check the link in the description. And I'll be back next Sunday putting out another free video with more free resources. So make sure that you hit the subscribe button and click on the bell to enable notifications so that you don't miss any of my videos. And lastly, don't forget to share in the comments any ideas on lessons that you have that you love for personal narrative, or any questions or struggles, so that you and I can collaborate, and all the other great teachers on YouTube as well.